Much of Guyana evolved from the history of sugar. Sugar played a key role in the cultural, economic, and the diversity of the people in Guyana. Last week, we celebrated Arrival Day. This was one of the many observances our nation celebrates annually. Arrival Day commemorates the first arrival of indentured laborers from India to Guyana. They came 178 years ago aboard two steamships, the Whitby and Hesperus, to work on sugar plantations. Before the Indians came, Africans provided the labor on the sugar plantations as slaves. Then after the Indians came, the Chinese to supply the labor required on the sugar plantations. In 1658, under the rule of the Dutch West Indian Company, the first plantations were established on the Pomeroy River in Essequibo. Labor was brought from neighboring islands such as Barbados, but as the demands for sugar increased, planters from Guyana looked to Africa to obtain an additional labor force. Following the abolition of slavery in 1838, a result of the acute labor problem arose, and William Gladstone, who was the owner of two West Indian plantations, wrote a Calcutta recruiting form inquiring about the possibility of obtaining Indian immigrants for his estates. Immigration scheme commenced in 1838 with a temporary halt from July 1839 to 1845, after which it continued virtually uninterrupted to 1917, during which time over 238,000 immigrants landed in Guyana. Just 75,000 returned to the land of their birth, while the remainder who survived the plantation system chose to remain and make Guyana their homeland. With a history as slaves and indentured laborers that is rooted in sugar, today, 178 years later, these cultural groups are leaders and active citizens contributing in different ways towards the development of the beautiful land called Guyana.
There's a land just off the Atlantic.
The diversity of culture is obvious and is well maintained. The sugar industry, on the other hand, over 300 years later, the sugar industry is still a key part of Guyana's development program and continues to produce one of the finest sugar, Demerara Gold. The indentured laborers came with another culture that is now a part of the blend of the Guyanese culture. Guyana became home for them. They worked hard, developed families, loved and prayed and conquered obstacles.
Guyana.